Hey YouTube, it's your buddy Drew from Living History's Mysteries and the Midwest Parahistoric Society. You know, I tell you guys time and time again how I try to find the most interesting videos, the best history, the best mystery, the best paranormal stories that I could bring you guys. And I team those up with our own personal investigations, and I try to make everybody just a little bit happier each time I put out a video. Today I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to look at an important piece of our history that sadly enough really isn't talked about in history class in the schools these days. A little incident that involved a group back in 1846 called the Donner Party. Now, normally April was the main time. That was the window that most of the wagon trains on the immigrant trail would take off and head west. But for one reason or another, the Donner Party didn't take off until the middle of May, putting them almost a month behind the perfect window to make it out to California. And well, sadly enough, a lot of us know what happened to that group a month out from their destination. Here recently, excavation was done by archaeological teams on the area in the Sierra Nevadas where the Donner's encampment was that fateful winter. It's a sad story, but history is finally breaking through, and it's telling more and more of the story. So check out the video today when we look at a little bit of the story of the Donners and a big story about how these archaeological teams and these excavations and these metal detectors are bringing history back to life. Stay tuned.
In 1846, a wagon party led by George Donner began a perilous journey across the continent. A new and untested route resulted in many unexpected hardships and delays. The wagons were late reaching the Sierra Nevada, the last barrier on the route to California. Disaster awaited the 87 men, women, and children of the Donner Party. Early autumn snowstorms trapped the wagons, and they were forced to construct makeshift camps for the winter. The result was extreme suffering and starvation. By the following April, when the last of several rescue efforts ended, nearly half of the wagon party members had perished. The ordeal drew national attention, sparked by rumors of cannibalism. Still, the tragedy remains a mystery, including the location of the various winter camps. This is the story of one effort to shed new light on one of the most dramatic events in the history of the American West.
I'm tickled to see that they're doing this.
And this is a real highlight in my life.
Gives me goosebumps, you know. It's really, really exciting. It's just a wonderful story, I think. It's a really familiar story to all of us.
They tried to get over some mountains and they didn't make it. Some of them didn't make it.
It's just incredible, obviously, to think what they went through, and now to see it and almost touch it.
The first thing you think of, my Lord Almighty, how those people ever did it.
How these people do it.
Yeah, I marvel that they got as far as they did. I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
It was, one of the world's greatest adventures. I mean, you couldn't have written fiction as exciting as their adventure.
It's symbolic of the
of the movement west.
And that's part of American mythology.
I can imagine snow 20 feet deep and starving children. I'm a mother now, too, and I can't imagine what it'd be like to watch your children dying in front of you.
The thing that bothered me was the children not having enough to eat.
They had to put up with a lot. You know, shortage of food. It's too bad that they had to start eating each other. They have to stoop to eating cannibalism.
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 Cannibalism, cannibalism.
It's all kinds of tales that they became cannibalism.
This is the tackiest souvenir we can find. It's kind of sick, but I think it's funny.
Every ounce of dirt that's been dug, I done dug it.
A lot of people ask, why are archaeologists interested in this site? And we answer that, well, you can read a lot about history from history books, but historians will tell you that what you read has to be read with a little bit of scrutiny, that people approach history with different bits of information and different perspectives, and in fact that's reflected in the Donner story. So the archaeology work is meant to complement and help clarify and strengthen the historical record. The first job of the archaeologist is to try to validate what has been passed down through oral tradition and through history. Is this the spot? If so, where were the camps? Were the camps located where history tells us they were? And beyond that, to try to provide a little bit better picture of what life was really like here for the folks that spent the winter here.
I'll go up there.
The Donner Party project is an interdisciplinary project. We have made use of historians, we've made use of dendrochronologists, we've made use of geologists, as well as archaeologists to try to collect as much information as we can about the Alder Creek Camp.
And what we have is a joint project between the U.S. Forest Service and the University of Nevada, Reno, and the project was prompted by the Forest Service proposal to do some work at the site here to improve it for handicapped users. Well, when we heard about that, we wanted to get involved as archaeologists because we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to inadvertently be destroying or disturbing any evidence of the Donner Party that might have survived. What we have in front of us here is this stately pine tree. As you can see at the base of it, there's a fire scar. There's also a fork of the tree that there's just a remnant of that tree now surviving. There's also a large rock at the base of it. This tree was pointed out as being the tree that George Donner supposedly constructed a shelter against this forked pine, built a fire against the tree, and tried to survive that winter.
What we were charged with, our task at hand in beginning this project, first and foremost, was to verify archaeologically whether or not this tree here is indeed the site of the George Donner camp. It has been so designated since back in the 1880s, so we're looking at about 110 years or so when basically people have believed in this cultural landmark here almost as a sacred cow.
But what the archaeologists are tending to deal with are very small, fragmentary objects. Everything that was visible and recognizable was carted off first by the rescuers who came in 1847. The valuable things they took. In subsequent years, during the gold rush, travelers talk about stopping at the camp and picking up souvenirs. That activity has gone on ever since. So the archaeologists don't have a pristine, complete time capsule to deal with. We're having to deal with the things that people either didn't see, didn't notice, or didn't think were worthwhile to take.
This site was probably well picked over before we even hear just casual collecting, what have not. It's been reported that visitors would come out here and camp at night right by the tree in the 1870s.
Right now we're the last couple of buckets. We're just getting dozens and dozens of flakes. You can see that.
The artifacts Barbara has here are Indian artifacts left from the several thousand years of Indian occupation of this site. And these are primarily flakes, as we call them, chips of basalt that are the remnants of the Indians manufacturing stone tools. So far, what we're finding at this excavation unit is no evidence of the Donner Party, but a lot of evidence of the Indian occupation.
Find anything? No. Archaeology is a lot different from Indiana Jones. This is real romantic. We're still waiting.
It's kind of soon to tell much of anything at this point, but we shall see.
Oh, I think morale's a little low because we haven't found anything historic. No beads or eyelets.
No compact surface, no artifacts.
Pockets full of bottle caps and pull tabs and junk.
Everybody wants to find something. A little notoriety.
Certainly.
Besides the basalt flake. Right, yeah.
I would like to find a whole a whole axle hub.
Tamsin Donner's diary.
An intact pistol.
I'd like her to find a bone with a bite in it.
I don't know, they think this might be possibly could be a grave mound or something. I definitely don't want to find bones.
If we could find a coin of some sort dating that general period, or preferably earlier than that period.
I know things can be maybe a little trying over there at the George tree, especially about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you're just baking and it's just like, you know, one more hard surface after the next, after the next, after the next. But I'd like to say one thing, that no matter what the outcome of this dig is, either way, we are in an all-win situation. We really are, and it may not seem like that now. It's like, if we don't find the George Donner tree in their campsite, it's a failure or something. And if we don't find it, what we are in the position of doing is what we are going to turn Emigrant Trail research on its ear. And so that in itself is really an important thing. For 150 years or whatever, people have been, saying that this indeed is the site. They've been saying, indeed, this is the trail. And if we don't, we will know whether or not this is the site by the end of this session.
Today is the end of week number 3, so there'll be 2 more weeks after this for us to begin to really piece this together. So early on, we started out quite a ways away. Found absolutely nothing. We put in units closer. Found absolutely nothing. Finally, you can see the area there where we have flagged off with the orange ribbon. Finally, we say, all right, enough is enough. Let's go right to the heart of the matter. We're going to excavate right in the center of where this camp should be located. What have we found there? Nothing. Not a single historic artifact at that location.
We were trying to test out the historical record and the archival record through archaeological means, basically looking at archaeology as an independent and collaborative source of information, sometimes which serves to clarify the historical record, sometimes which serves to refute the historical record.
If the scar is a result of fires from the Donner's camp, we would have expected, first of all, to have found tremendous amounts of charcoal. The diaries indicate that these people had fires burning almost 24 hours a day to keep warm. We should also find lots of little artifacts, perhaps some bone, food refuse, and so forth. We've excavated entirely around this tree, as you can see, and not a thing. So I think we're fairly convinced that while this tree was here at the time of the Donner Party, it does not appear to be one in which the Donners themselves camped up against.
Now, that basically then answers our first and major research goal, which is this is not the site of the George Donner tree. And we feel that we have evidence to support that. We're going to need to support that because, again, for 110 years, historians have regarded this, if anything was sure on the route of the Immigrant Trail, this was a sure thing. As the president of the Oregon-California Trails Association told us, he said, "You are attacking the sacred cow." We've literally taken the heart out of the beast of the cow, and we are taking some of the glimmer away from this tree, to be sure. But we don't want to kill it. I mean, again, this sacred cow is a symbol of the events that were going on here, and we'd like to still recognize this as a cultural artifact that has been so for 110 years or so. Literally, we don't want to kill the tree. Also, in our excavations, we've disturbed a lot of roots on this tree, and this tree is over 500 years old. It's survived a lot of things. I would hope that our research efforts here would not serve to kill this cultural artifact, this debunked sacred cow, as it were. In the past, archaeologists doing peer research and metal detectors, people operating metal detectors, sometimes irresponsibly, have not always seen eye to eye. Our goals have not always been compatible, but we've just gotten a really positive response from metal detector clubs who would like to come and offer their assistance in research. So that has been a really an innovative aspect of this project.
Metal detectors and archaeologists haven't really been close friends because archaeologists think the metal detectors go in and they dig up sites and destroy sites, which I'm sure we could do if we were treasure hunting. But in this particular case, it seemed logical because we're dealing with a historical period and we're looking for iron. And so in order to, it was logically, I felt they should have metal detectors, and found out that this just was not in common use.
What we do want to do is to punch through that rock stratum just to make sure that we don't have Donners.
Yeah, really. Musket balls popping out here.
Right.
Well, all right.
Did you see that musket ball they found?
You're kidding.
Yeah, we're bringing that out.
Oh, you are kidding me. With the metal detector?
Mm-hmm.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. This is a lot better than finding the bottle tops, the bottle caps, and things that are littering this site that mark the more recent use of this area. Just finding one object doesn't buy anything. You want to find a lot of things, and the weight of evidence leads you to a time period.
We talked about it yesterday. He came over here to look around, and we said, let's just go back and look at that meadow again. You just never know. That was the best potential we've had so far, and let's just go cover it a little more systematically.
It's about 1.25 inches down. Should be right in here. I'm going to try and cut a plug so that I will have it in the center of whatever. Do you want to see it? We have a cut nail. Not a hand-wrought nail, so it's post-Donner.
Bingo! That's the first one I found.
Piece of square nail.
A piece of square.
Where was it?
Right there.
Would you start cleaning it out again?
Yeah.
Oh, you're darn.
Oh, hello.
You find another something?
Yep. It's a something.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, that could literally be from almost anything.
We got a part of a carriage bolt.
We found one other bolt before, so that's I think we're on the track.
Got it, Arlene. Oh, here's a piece of glass. It's a little piece of glass.
It's a type of rivet that was used to fasten clothing.
1964 nickel.
We've only moved 100 yards from the George Donner tree out into the meadow, and we're really starting to find things now.
Big bolt.
A snaffle bit.
Yeah, it was great. It was exciting.
We almost didn't find it.
These are the tongues. They use these as kind of a bracket.
Right there. That's a pretty large drill bit. It's got a tapered end.
You went to town and looked up.
Yeah. Huh. Very interesting.
Manage my unit here.
Different kind of attack.
That's a first one. That was
This is a different looking tack. I think it's a cut nail.
I bet it's a square nail. Come on, it's a square nail.
Probably clenched nails as good as anything.
Looks more like bottle.
Reflective material.
Right here, Gare.
I'll be darned.
I get to join the musket ball club now. We found one up here earlier, at least as big, maybe a little bigger. It was almost as big as a marble. We found it right here out of this hole, the metal detector. Two of them.
Just came out.
Wow, that one's
Two
even
musket
bigger.
balls. Yeah, musket ball. Plus 62.
Looks like a musket ball.
And keep it a musket ball.
Here's another one.
Excellent.
Stephanie?
Here's another one.
Another one.
Yay, Kurt!
This is really promising as far as an array of artifacts that gets us back feasibly into that 1840s period.
Since we're just going to use some of our...
These are percussion caps that have been fired. They were the immediate follow-up to the old flintlock musket.
We know historically that at least some members of the Donner Party had percussion weapons because they're mentioned.
This just came out of our unit. This is a rim piece of ceramic, and this design is called shellware, and it's very diagnostic as far as time goes.
Shell age pearlware would be very consistent with an 1840s occupation such as that of the Donner Party.
As I was traveling around, I came across a round object. Well, as I started uncovering it, here I see an 1830 1-cent coin, and it just was ecstatic.
Now, yesterday and today we found the coins, one dating 1830 and the other one today 1839, which was just like rejoice. I mean, it was just wonderful to, you know, if you want something to date a site, what better thing than a coin with a date on it, you know?
Kind of neat and exciting. Finally, we also found a pewter button too, about this big around.
Found a fire hearth, and that's a little bit discouraging. The diaries tell us they had fires going 24 hours a day. We should be able to find good evidence of that fire. And we haven't found it. We found scattered charcoal throughout the units we've been excavating, but no concentration. But it may be explainable by the fact that we have such tremendous rodent activity in the site here. And it's highly likely that almost every square inch of this meadow has been moved around over the last 140 years by rodents. So a fire hearth may well be dispersed now all over this meadow area.
Okay, what do we got here? Glass? We got glass. We got charcoal. We got bone.
But we found like 25 tiny little pieces of bone, some of them no bigger than this, in the screen yesterday.
It's concave.
We're also finding hundreds and hundreds of pieces of very, very, very small pieces of bone. This bone appears to have been burned. It appears to have been broken up almost to the point of grinding. In other words, the pieces of broken bone indicates to us that whoever was camping here was on famine fare. And that directly then points to a Donner occupation, although we have to be careful when we say that. But we know that another immigrant camp might not have this appearance, especially in terms of the burned bone.
All of these things together would certainly suggest that this may indeed be a correct location of at least one of the Alder Creek camps.
Now, the big question, of course, we have is whose camp is whose? We've got an indication of things across the meadow. We've got some things here. History tells us that George and Jacob camped real close together, and the Teamsters camped across the creek. Okay, well, is this meadow the creek? Is that George and Jacob over there, or is it George or Jacob? Is this the Teamsters? Those are the kinds of things, the questions we want to try to explore more fully with additional work.
What we're finding during the course of this research is their assistance has been absolutely critical. There is no way we could have accomplished what we've been able to accomplish without the assistance of metal detectors.
We're all learning. It's just been a real good experience, and I think it's been a real breakthrough that in the future, when they're dealing with historical sites where there's metal involved, that they will be using metal detectors first.
When will you have tests on the bone fragments that will tell you, yes, these are human, or no, these are not human?
This could be months down the road. Unfortunately, the question of cannibalism and the question of what goodies are we finding tends to make the top of the story. And this is a story we're trying to turn around in terms of what we're doing here is we're trying to clarify some very important aspects of history.
The unfortunate side is that the cannibalism gets the press, or gets the print as far as books about the Donner Party, and the real heart of the story seems to get lost.
Welcome back. As I said in the beginning, because of one reason or another, the Donner train didn't pull out of Independence, Missouri during that window in April, which put them almost a month behind the rest of the trains. When they got into the Sierra Nevadas, they met a winter like they never imagined. Snow 20 feet deep, people dying left and right of starvation. What was a group to do? If any of them wanted to survive, they had to do the worst imaginable things to make it through. It's a sad part of history, but it's our history nonetheless. And it's something that our children should know about, to know just what the limits were that these immigrants were willing to go to start a brand new life. You can't help but wonder what they thought, knowing what they were doing, and how the God that they held so strong in their hearts would look down upon them. But you know, I believe that an almighty spirit, an almighty being, is going to look down on you the same, regardless of those actions, if there's only one course of action to take. That was an unusual ding. Oh well. But that's all I got for you guys today. As always, I'd like to remind you to please share out the videos. Definitely like them. by all means, subscribe to the channel for more interesting history and the mysteries it left behind. But until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God bless you, God love you, we do. We'll see you on down the road.